she's a bit problematic, to be honest. Um, but it's still early days, so I don't want to write her off yet. All right. Okay. So we also have the case where after the ladies sat with the guys, it was the two guy curveballs that come in, and the two guys are Fabrice, who's a fashion designer, um, and we have Mark Anthony, who's a lab technician. Now, Fabrice is an older guy, and I must say, Fabrice actually looks older than what he says he is. But he says that he's well traveled. He's worked in Europe in the fashion industry, and I don't want to be bad mind or bad mouth him, but from what I saw, seems pretty intent on pushing lust and sexy energy and all that stuff ahead of actually looking for a relationship. Like he seems quite sleazy, like a sleazy director who will kind of, you know, if you, I can get you this job with it or get you this modeling contract if you do X, Y, and Z. Not saying he is like that, but that's the energy that he gave off. That's the impression he gave off. Like he's down to have the sex, if you get what I mean. Um, so he spent all conversation that he had with any of the ladies pushing, the lustful stuff. Um, Nothing wrong with that if you want to go out like that, but that's not gonna promote like that you're looking for love. But there were some of the women intrigued by his accent, his worldly travels. I guess they may find him visually attractive as well. So, they were listening to what he was saying. I think Mark Anthony is an interesting curveball because he looks like he's going to be eye candy for the women on the show. Lab technician, uh, if anything, he seems very confident, um, but hasn't said anything crazy this episode at least. But yeah, when I saw him walking, I was like, okay, so it's definitely an eye candy aspect. So that may actually put him immediately ahead of some of the other guys that are there. All right. And I say that because he probably had maybe three women at least very interested in him, commenting about how he looks and all the rest of it. So that was interesting. So yeah, those are the full curveballs. Cynthia, Janique, uh, Fabrice, and Mark Anthony. All right. So I touched on Corvair before. Let's just talk about Corvair quickly. Corvair seems to think that she deserves to be spoiled. If you can't spoil her, if you can't afford her, then you're out of her league. Like she ain't giving you the time of day. Okay, that's fine. There's not a problem with having that attitude if you want to be single, or you just want to be spoiled, taken out on dates, da 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 da. That's fine. In a long-term relationship, you putting that out there so early means that you're going to give off the vibes that, as you're only after the guy's ability to entertain you or spend money on you. You're not giving the vibe that the longevity of a relationship, the ups and downs, not saying that you're going to struggle because that can be an unforeseen circumstance. People get laid off, people get sacked, people get injured, people have life changing problems and situations that occur. So if you're attaching your happiness or the value of the relationship to what the guy can provide you, then you are going to have a hard time finding someone to meet your expectations. Um, Most guys who are successful really care about what they do with their money. because you realize that money doesn't grow on trees. A lot of successful men work hard for their money, just like successful women do. But you very rarely see a man say, "I want my woman to spoil me before I get with them." That's very rare. So Corvea's attitude towards this is probably going to lead to her getting sent home very soon, because unfortunately, just like many women don't like to be looked at or critiqued just for their sex appeal or their physical. There are lots that do, but when you're looking at a serious relationship, you don't want this guy to just be knocking the boots and then bouncing and then going out and finding other girls. You're trying to lock him down into a relationship if that's what you like him for, right? If that's what you want. Um, so yeah, putting it out there that you're interested in the finances early, you deserve to be spoilt. Yeah, you may be on the path to spoiling yourself for a long time to come, you know. So that may be a problem for Corvea going forward. And she was mentioned quite a lot by the men in the men's lounge. Yeah, they are not feeling her like that. So yeah, Corvea, you're gonna be a problem if you stay there. And don't get it twisted. You're entitled to have the expectations that you want, but that may not be what the guys are looking for in you. Yeah. Um, okay, we find out. Let's move over to the guys. Blake had a less controversial episode than last week, but he was chosen to eliminate Z. And Lyndon, who has had interactions with Colvert before, and she stated that she could never date no one that lives with a flatmate. And that's where we really got to hear about her relationship aspirations with regards to what the men can do for her, you know. Basically saying if a man lives with a flatmate, he can't afford her. Or she's accustomed to living a lifestyle and that guy wouldn't be able to provide it. That's cool. But now Lyndon is with her. And I think Lyndon really gave her some game, really gave her some real sound advice. And he did it in a way which wasn't combative or argumentative. She received it very well. I don't know if she's going to change anything about her approach, but he said to her, instead of talking about what you want from a man and what he needs to do, she needs to change it to she would like to meet a guy that would do those things, you know, because there's more. She hopes to find someone like that rather than it being, oh, no, you must do this, you must do X, Y, and Z, you must pay for me, you must spoil me, da da da, right? So that was sound advice from Lyndon, and she received it. So whether she takes that advice going forward, we'll have to see next week. It was Blake sitting down with Z that had to break the news to her that she is connect. You know, she has the least um, connection with the men at the moment. And I think that has a lot to do with her interrogating the guys when she went around asking them specifically who voted me off, why was I voted off, you know. And some of them mentioned that in the men's lounge, like they didn't like that because it puts them in a spot where if they have to, it's kind of like a confidential vote. It's in the men's lounge, so the women aren't supposed to know who voted for who and why. Otherwise, they would have been included in the vote. So, in order to preserve the integrity of the voting process, guys are not going to go and reveal their choices and who they like and who they're close to and all that stuff. They're not going to go out and outwardly do that so early. So, Z ended up going home and she sung a little song at the end. She was quite graceful in how she accepted the not rejection, but how she received the information from Blake. Um, Now she let out a little song, and it left me thinking, you know what, if we had seen this personality from her at the end, if she had had that personality uh, at earlier points, maybe she wouldn't have been in the bottom. Because one of the criticisms that the men had of her is that, since being in the bottom last week, she came into this episode a very changed person. She was very unsure of herself and very very not accusatory, but it was more on her mind about being placed in the bottom, like a shot to her ego, and she didn't handle it well. So then also nephew Tommy has told them that they could give someone a lifeline. They have one lifeline to save one of the women from elimination, and they can use it at any point during the season, but it has to be a consensus by all the guys that this lady is worth saving using this lifeline for. So unfortunately, it wasn't Z. So we'll see who we reserve that for. And the men will probably be deliberating the week after next. It'll be another men's lounge. Next week, it's the women's turn to eliminate a guy. At this point, I'm not sure who it's going to be. I will have to look at the next episode and get like probably halfway through before I realize, who might be going and who might not be. But I will say the problematic men at the moment, I think Fabrice, the new curveball, leading with sex all the time is going to be a problem. I think he thinks he has some je ne sais quoi, like he has some elegance, he has the French accent or whatever. And both Fabrice and Mark Anthony are from Haiti, so they really kind of spiced it up a little bit by adding some Caribbean flavor of in some sorts. They're two very different people. Um, but I think Fabrice's sexual energy, like what he's leading with all the time, I don't know if they're going to get tired of it or they're going to see it as quite creepy. I'm not sure, because the day and age that we are in right now, I don't think you can go about leading with that for too long. So Fabrice would be someone who I think could potentially get eliminated next week. That's my candidate. I would also say Blake has a strong chance. The reason why I say Blake is because Blake has 3 kids with 3 different women, which isn't a problem in itself. But you're not supposed to be on this show. Why? Because you're asking to meet a girl who's going to want you to, devote some time to her, to get to know her. And unfortunately, 3 baby mothers, 3 kids, a lot of your time and attention is going to be, rightly so, diverted to those prior relationships that you've had. So you're not coming into this show, this setting, with a level playing field compared to some of the contestants. There are a couple of women that do have kids, and they will probably have a similar a similar background to Blake, but at the end of the day, if you meet someone that has kids, then you have that in common, and that may work. But I think the struggle is when you have, that situation going on, and then you're expecting to meet someone who may not have kids or is, trying to start a relationship. The problem is those previous people in your life are going to be there for the long haul, and this person is going to be expected to put up with the phone calls about hospital appointments. I don't know, potential child support, potential beef with new partners that they may have when they move on, new kids that they may have. Yeah, it's a lot. So I think Blake has also come across as someone who's quite opinionated. So yeah, I think Fabrice and Blake would be who I see going into the bottom 2 at the moment. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you haven't checked out the show yet and you're checking out my review first, sorry to spoil it for you. watch the show, come back, leave some feedback for me. If you do like the content, or like the video or like my analysis and breakdown, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. And hopefully see you next week. Deuces. Peace out, people.